Hey everybody, my name's Leasia Langley. Welcome to Lee's Lounge, where we're going to talk about a little bit of everything. You name it, I'm going to talk about it. Today, we have my bestie, Ephraim, joining me for our first topic. And I think we should talk about discipline in the school system, this new generation of discipline. And what do you think about it?
What do I think about it?
What do you think about it?
Ask me a question, be more specific.
Well, what do you think about the fact that a lot of parents are only 10 to 12 years older than their children?
I mean, it kind of creates a structure where people are a little bit closer to their kids, but for years and generations, people have been having kids a lot younger. I mean, people got married at like as young as 16, even though everybody thinks it's kind of weird. That's how it's been for thousands of years. I don't think the gap in age is why kids are more difficult to deal with in schools. I think it has more to do with a lot of cultural biases and media programming and a lot of things that have been done to the Black community.
Do you think COVID had anything to do with it?
No, not really. I mean, when I was growing up and when I was going to school, we ran into it a lot. I mean, I was kind of a brat in school. Like, I cut class. I didn't really do my homework. But my parents disciplined me. They were like, they'd take away the game or say I couldn't watch TV or whatever. And that was enough for me. But, I mean, I still did it in high school when I can get away with it. But, I mean, nowadays it does seem as though I've seen from friends that I have that are either school teachers or watching young kids, either whether it be in church or school, they call out their kid and say, hey, your kid was misbehaving or they weren't doing their work. And then the parent comes in and kind of chews out the teacher for not doing their job. I've seen it firsthand, but I've also seen the other side where the parent is very upset and they discipline their kid properly. I don't really know what the difference is.
Well, being in the school system, because a lot of people,
you're a teacher?
I'm a substitute, but
okay.
I'm a permanent substitute.
Everybody's mean to the substitute teacher, right?
They're not mean to me because Miss Lee is disciplined.
I was mean to my substitute teacher.
Miss Lee is disciplined. But the kids, especially at my school, they don't respect their certified teachers. But when they come in my class, they're so disciplined. I teach like a coach. So if you come in my class and you disrupt my class, okay, well, we're going to stand here until y'all got something to talk about of meaning. Read this sentence for me. And if you can't, and I teach 7th grade, if you can't read a sentence, you have no business talking in my class.
Okay.
They're disciplined in my class. But a lot of their parents, I've dealt with parents, luckily because I'm so vocal, a lot of the parents, they love me, they respect me, so I have their numbers. So when their child acts up, I'm sending videos. But you have a lot of parents who baby their kids. I've seen that firsthand where they'll come. I've had parents come and cuss out the principal because their child went home and told half a story. So you wonder where they get it from, and then you run into some of those parents that'll let their daughters wear crop tops to school, but then when the parent comes to get them, they're wearing crop tops. So then you're like, oh, okay.
So the parent kind of knows what's going on, but they didn't know it was a problem.
But the parent sometimes, at least from what I see, sometimes you can say you are a product of your environment, because when you come to school and you come and you act a certain way and you show out in class so that you don't have to do the work, you would assume that if we call your parent is going to come and be like, well, why were you acting up in class?
So do you think they're trying to act up just so they can get out of class and get out doing the work? Okay. And is that working? Are they still having to do the work? Are they
in my class
excused
they do
from the work?
They're never excused from the work. They don't do it, but they don't get disciplined for it. So when they go home and their grades are bad, then you have parents ready to argue with the teacher because, well, why are my kids' grades bad? Well, we've sent out 7 or 8 text emails, we've called, but I guess the number on file isn't the number you wanted us to call because no one answers. Now you see the report card and you want to argue with me as the teacher.
So when you sit down with these parents, what do they say? Like, what is the argument? Like, if their kid is acting up and we actually come full circle and they get the entire story, they get the story from you and they sit down with you, what then happens? Are they still arguing with you saying, oh, my girl should be able to wear whatever she wants, or they should be able to skip out on class, or whatever those behaviors are?
Luckily for me, again, because I'm so vocal, I call as soon as something happens. I don't say too much on what the kids wear because that's an admin thing. I just care about how you act in my class because you're going to be respectful to me. The fact that kids are more respectful to substitutes than they are to their certified teachers baffles me. But then it's all about what you allow. These certified teachers, they talk to them like students. You work at an urban school, you need to talk to these kids like they're outside.
Well, we all know that one teacher that's got their tenure, they've been doing it for years, and they're kind of worn down. And every generation is new kids, and for them, it's like it's harder every year, especially when you've done it over and over and over again. You got to start fresh every single year with a new group of kids. Like, you're kind of young into the game, you're not worn down yet, you still have the energy. Do you think that's the difference?
That definitely plays a big difference, but it's also just about how you have to command at some of these urban schools. You have to command respect upon arrival and not try to be the friend and then go in to be the strict teacher, because they'll look at you like you're crazy. As opposed to if you come in and you're like, hey, I like having fun, this is who I am, but if you talk to me crazy, you're gonna get disciplined. Now they know she's the cool teacher, but she don't play, so let's be respectful in her class, because when we do good, she rewards us. When we do bad, she scolds us. So we know if we get yelled at, it's because we did something we shouldn't have done.
Let's spin the block one more time. I'm sorry to cut you off.
You're fine.
But let's go back around to the fact that you said that kids are closer in age to their parents, right? I don't know if that's a fact, but don't you think that the relationship between them, okay, they're more friendly with their children because they're closer in age? Don't you think you're closer in age to the kids? So don't you think it's going to be easier for you to relate to the kids and create a positive impact?
That is true.
Versus the older teacher who may be tenured, may have been there a while, and may be tired of trying to recreate the wheel every single year with a new set of kids?
That is actually a Snapple fact. That is a Snapple fact, actually, because it is easier to relate to them, but it's also just me as a teacher versus me as a parent. Mm-hmm. As a teacher, being closer to their age, they're gonna listen more. Mm-hmm. They're gonna see someone that looks like them. So someone that looks like them. Do most of the teachers
not look like them?
None of them. Only the new teachers, and there's only about 4 or 5 of us, and we're all substitutes.
Yeah.
The 4 and 5 of us substitutes that look like them are the ones that they come to. I have my own Miss Lee's corner. If you're having a bad day, once you step behind my desk, no one's allowed back there. That's your time. You talk, you cry, that's fine. No one needs to be in your business. So as a teacher, being young, being close to their age, it's different than being a parent, being close to their age. As a parent, whether you're young or not, your child should know there's a line. I'm cool, I'm nice, I'm the young parent, but I'm your parent. Don't talk to me like I'm one of your friends. And because these parents want to be friends, kids are getting away with stuff that they shouldn't get away with. Not to say it wasn't like that with us, but it's much worse now. And then kids had to stay home for COVID, so they didn't get to experience some of their grades in person. So now they got all this energy from sitting in the house. So it's 10 times worse.
Yeah, we're going to be experiencing the blowback from COVID for many years to come, just in the sense that there's been a generation of kids that have not been properly socialized, let's say. I know people don't like bullying, but like that whole social dynamic and figuring out where people stand in the hierarchy and competition and all that kind of stuff in person is very important for a child's development. And if they skip out on that phase, I mean, we talk about like kids staying at home and gaming all day or being on their phones and not having in-person social interactions, but think what an impact having just have been at home for that entire time. Some of these kids are only socialized at school.
That is true.
And COVID may have made that worse. Once again, circling back around to what we addressed earlier. Since it seems that you have a really good way of dealing with discipline between the kids and parents not understanding what the situation is at school, what happens when you bring this to the older or tenured teachers, maybe not older, but they already established teachers? What happens when you tell them, hey, maybe this is a better way to speak to the kids?
Good point.
Is it falling on deaf ears? Are they pushing back? It is
definitely falling on deaf ears, and I'll tell you why. We've had a few situations. I've run into a few situations in the past 2-3 weeks, let alone, where the tenured teachers don't like the fact that the substitute has more control over the kids than they do, and they've been there for years. So I've literally had teachers literally try to nitpick, they try to anything I'm doing, instead of minding their business, they're all in mine. So because I teach like a coach, but I'm also laid back, I don't say much unless you are disrespectful. The kids, I want to talk to Miss Lee. I want to be near Miss Lee. I want to be near Miss Lee. And the other teachers don't like it because I'm certified and I've been here for a while. Why don't these kids like me? Well, now I don't like her because they don't like me. That's a you problem.
Well, you could imagine if somebody younger and fresher came into, say, somebody with braiding hair, and they were doing it faster, they were doing it better, they were getting better quality, and they're the hot kid on the block. You know, it happens to everybody, and it's going to happen to us one day. It can be threatening.
It can be threatening, but at the end of the day, if you're focused on what you're supposed to do, why am I focused on what you're supposed to do? If we're running, right? Both of us ran track. If we're running, are you ever supposed to look behind you to see what someone else is doing? Because that slows you down,
but
right?
If I'm old and slow, I'm not looking behind me. I'm looking in front of me and seeing your dust, and I'm kind of upset. I'm losing.
Then what do you do? Then what do you do? As someone
I got arthritis. I can't run faster. You get what I'm saying, though?
No. But my point is, these teachers that are older, they're not old. They're not 60, 70, 50 stuff. They're 30s,
they're not
40s.
old, but things are moving fast.
Right.
However, somebody who's 40 might not be able to use a cell phone, and they're not old, but maybe like, I don't know how y'all use Snapchat or whatever.
This is true, but then you also have to think about how you talk to people is how people will talk to you. So a lot of these teachers just assume that you're supposed to respect me because I'm your teacher, and that's not the fact. Because at the end of the day, you have to get to know each one of your students individually to know how to help them when different things happen. I took the time to get to know every single one. I could tell you every single one of my students by name. I can tell you exactly what they're going through by name. That's because I took the time to do it, whether I'm young or not.
20 years.
I know. Hey, welcome back.
I mean, hey, maybe we talk to the teachers.
I tried that. I tried that. They don't want to speak to me.
No, like maybe if I could talk to the teachers.
I mean, you're not gonna get much out of them, but you can. I mean, you can try. But I mean, it's a lot of unnecessary, uncaused for silent tension when there shouldn't be. If the end goal was really to take care of the kids, protect the kids, make sure they get the discipline that they need so that when they get older and when they go to 8th grade, high school, college, they're doing what they're supposed to do, shouldn't we be working cohesively? Should we not be? Why are we competing with each other if the goal is to make sure they're straight?
I'll be honest. No. I'll be honest. Some people, they're fed up with their job. They got whatever going on in their life. And sure, I'm not saying it's right, but they're kind of maybe done trying to make a difference. And unfortunately, they're at a point in their career where if they wanted to shift or something like that, it's not feasible financially. So maybe they are stuck in that position. Not everybody can pivot. I've been at jobs that I've frankly hated very much. Retail positions, customer service, customer facing, and people would tell me, you know what, you have an attitude. And they were right. They'd say, you know what, why don't you find another job? And it just wasn't in the cards at the time, whether it be economy or bills or family situation or what have you, or just me not being qualified for something else. I mean, thankfully I'm in a better position now, but sometimes people do just hate the position they're in, and they can't see anything but what's directly in front of them, or they got their blinders on, and they're just like, I'm just trying to get to the next 2 weeks without any extra headaches so I could pay these bills. So and that's a situation a lot of people are in, especially teachers, because they're very underpaid.
And that is a Snapple fact.
Except for you.
Nope. Substitutes. Don't get me started on substitute pay. But do you think that personality also makes a difference? Because now you and I, we've worked together. People will say that you're mean, and I don't think you're mean at all. But people will come in and say, she's super hyperactive.
You couldn't stand me when they hurt.
What?
You couldn't stand me when I started.
Yeah, and now you're my friend. I really wanted to harm you in ways not possible, but look how close we got.
Personality does matter. I mean, we're seeing it in the medical field right now. Like, people, just because it's paying a lot and they're hiring, they need people. There's definitely a need. There's people who are not very interested in helping people, who are nurses and in well, in a position that really needs to be something that people want to do.
This is indeed a Snapple fact.
But it's not, and that's why everything crazy is going on.
This is a Snapple fact. Okay. I mean, I guess you got a point or whatever. You know, yeah.
Sometimes you just gotta work to pay bills. I mean, that's kind of
I learned this from a wise man, right? I call him Papa Joe.
Was it me? Oh.
No, I call him Papa Joe. I learned this from a wise man. If you don't enjoy what you're doing, are you really gonna ever succeed?
Sometimes there's an ends to a means.
Are you sure?
Absolutely.
If you don't love what you're doing, you're gonna succeed.
Mm-mm.
But if you love what you're doing, does it feel like a job?
What do you define as succeed? I mean, sometimes, I had to work it where we worked for X amount of time to get myself to a different position to be able to move up. And I hated it and I still hate it.
But then me, on the other hand, I went to school for something and I'm not even doing anything in that field. But I found a new calling, which I actually kind of like.
Mm.
So I like what I'm doing. How I do it and how I run it seems to be working.
And even
therefore it's successful.
And even if you're in a position that you don't like, sometimes it was just a learning experience. Like, now you know what you don't like. Now you know what you can't do or what you would not be successful at. There's people who go to school for degrees, and at the end of the day, they go in, they go all the way through it, they get the debt, and they do something completely different. And there's people who even go into career fields for 20 years out of their lives, and they're like, I don't know how I was doing that. And I was only doing it because I felt like I had to.
This is true.
I mean, this is kind of far-reaching, but it's kind of the problem with such big, tight, and dense cities is people don't get filtered into what they should do. They just do what they have to do, and they get kind of stuck there because bills and debt and children and what have you kind of stick them in a situation. They can't get out of that rut because now I'm making so much money in this position, and for me to pivot, I wouldn't be able to afford my kids to go to school or my car or my house or my rent or whatever.
So you think it's more of, if I gotta do it, I might as well suck it up. There's no need in complaining because you still gotta do it.
Not necessarily, but greater minds than mine have definitely tried to fix things. That's why there's the politicians that we have that we criticize so much. They have to study these things and say and make city plans and figure out how to get people in positions where they should fit. That's a very complex job. It's a lot more complex than a lot of us would like to admit, because I couldn't do better.
I could not. I promise you I could not. It's not
as much as we hate them, it's an unpopular opinion that, that their job is hard.
All right, well, you heard it here, folks. You heard it here first. Ephraim, I appreciate you being on my first podcast. Tell the people.
Thanks. When do I get paid?
Excuse me? Husky don't cover that. Got a whole song about it. Theme song. Husky don't cover that. Anyways, we'll see you next time on Lee's Lounge. Bye.
Thanks, guys.